Okay, so have you ever just stopped and like really thought about the conversations you have in your own head?
Yeah.
Like those times when you're questioning like literally everything.
Mm-hmm.
From why your phone battery always seems to die at the worst possible moment to like the nature of reality itself.
Oh, absolutely. It can get pretty deep in there.
Yeah, it gets super trippy sometimes. And that's kind of what we're diving into today in this deep dive.
Love it.
So you are amazing listeners. You sent us a ton of mind-bending material for this one.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking transcripts from Neale Donald Walsch's Conversations with God,
Yeah.
videos on YouTube,
Wow.
a lecture by Jordan B. Peterson, all about the concept of God.
That's a big one.
It is. It's a big one.
Yeah.
We also got an audiobook transcript of Aaron Worley's One Truth, One Law, I Am, I Create.
Okay.
And even some timeless wisdom from the Tao Te Ching.
It's like a cosmic buffet.
It really is. It's like a philosophical potluck.
I love that.
So if we kind of zoom out and look at what we've got here,
Yeah.
it's basically a bunch of different perspectives,
Yeah.
all trying to tackle those huge questions, the ones that keep us up at night.
Totally.
Like, what's the deal with God? What is truth, even?
Yeah.
How real is this reality we experience? And maybe the most exciting question,
Okay.
what can we actually do within all of this?
What power do we have?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So our mission, if we choose to accept it,
I think we have
I
to.
think we do too, is to kind of wade through all of these sometimes really head-scratching ideas,
Yeah.
pull out those golden nuggets,
Yeah.
and see what they might mean for you, our listener.
I'm into it.
Me too. And there's no pressure to like suddenly subscribe to one specific belief system or anything.
Right.
We're just here to explore the possibilities.
To explore the possibilities. Exactly.
You ready to jump down the rabbit hole?
Let's do it.
All right, let's go. So right off the bat,
Yeah.
it makes you think, like, how do you even begin to have a conversation about something as massive and maybe even like undefinable as God?
It's a huge question, right?
It's a huge question. It's like
Yes.
almost impossible to wrap your head around.
Yeah, it's like trying to explain the internet to someone who's never even seen a computer.
Exactly. It's that level of like, whoa.
Right.
And Walsch, in his conversations with God, he starts off by saying that he was like super skeptical at first.
Yeah, oh, I bet.
Because, who wouldn't be, right? Like having a conversation with God, not just praying to God, but like actually having a dialogue.
That's a whole other level.
It's a whole other level. And he describes it as like this process of writing down his questions. And then like almost out of nowhere, the answers would just kind of appear.
Wow. So it was like he was channeling something.
Yeah, it was like his inner critic just took a vacation or something.
Interesting.
And, maybe the takeaway for our listener here is that sometimes you just got to let those questions flow without trying to like edit or judge them right away.
Mm-hmm.
You never know what might come up if
Yeah.
you just give yourself that space.
It's like silencing the inner critic.
Yeah, exactly. And what's so interesting is how Walsh's whole dialogue kind of throws a wrench in the whole idea of traditional authority.
Oh, how so?
Well, the God he's conversing with actually questions whether religious leaders or like ancient texts are the only source of truth.
Oh, okay. So it's challenging that top-down approach.
Exactly. It's like
Yeah.
saying, hey, the official company memo isn't the only way to figure out what's really going on.
Right. Sometimes you need to talk to the people on the front lines.
Yes, exactly. You need to get those different perspectives. And instead, Walsh's conversations kind of shift the focus to your own internal compass.
Interesting.
Your feelings, your best instincts, your personal experiences.
Okay. So it's more about trusting your own inner guidance.
Exactly. It's like your intuition got a major upgrade and those inner whispers become your go-to source for figuring things out.
Makes you think about all the insights we might be missing by not listening to our gut more.
Right. It's like we have this incredible internal navigation system, but we're constantly second-guessing it.
Yeah, we rely too much on external sources.
Totally. And, if we connect this to like the bigger picture,
Mm-hmm.
it really aligns with a lot of modern thinking about intuition and inner wisdom.
Absolutely.
It's like this idea that the answers we're looking for might actually be closer than we think.
Within us.
Within us, exactly.
So powerful.
It is. So if we're tuning into that inner guidance, what are some of the big ideas about God and reality that emerge from these sources?
Yeah, that's the big question.
It is a big one. And in Walsh's conversations, God is presented as this great, unseen, something way beyond any specific image or concept that we try to pin on it.
Okay, so it's beyond form, beyond definition.
Exactly. It's like trying to understand the entire internet by just looking at one website.
Like you're only seeing a tiny fraction of the whole thing.
Exactly. And then there's this really fascinating concept of am-notness that Walsh brings up.
Am-notness. I hadn't heard that one before.
Yeah, it's a bit of a head-scratcher, but basically it's presented as both the starting point and the end point of God.
Okay, so it's like the alpha and the omega.
Yeah, in a way, it's like the ultimate potential before anything even exists.
So like the blank canvas before the painting begins.
Exactly. The blankest of blank canvases where all of reality is just waiting to be painted. It's not nothing. It's like the source of everything.
Wow, it's like the potentiality of all that is and all that is not.
Yes, and for our listener, this might suggest that the possibilities are always way more expansive than what they can currently grasp or imagine.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Right. It's like saying the silence between the notes is just as important as the music itself. And then we get into this idea of duality.
Okay.
You know, like love and fear being created as essential for God to actually experience itself.
So for anything to even happen.
Exactly. It's like you need light to understand darkness. You need up to understand down.
It's like that concept of yin and yang.
Yes, exactly. It's all about those contrasting experiences actually leading to greater understanding.
I can see how that would apply to our own lives too.
Right? Like those challenges we face, those difficult emotions, they're not just random. They're part of a bigger process of self-discovery.
So it's about embracing the whole spectrum of experience.
Exactly. And what's cool is how the Eastern perspective on God as like this all that is and all that is not kind of meshes with the more Western view of God as like the creator, all that we can see and touch.
Okay, so it's like those two perspectives are actually complementary.
Yeah. And the takeaway is that God is both. You know, it's the visible and the invisible, the known and the unknown, the tangible and the intangible.
It's like saying your favorite superhero has both their secret identity and their superpowers.
Yes, exactly. And for our listener, this might mean being open to different ways of understanding and experiencing the divine.
It's about expanding our awareness beyond our limited perspectives.
Exactly. And then comes the real mind blower.
Okay, I'm ready.
Walsh suggests that humans are like God's spiritual offspring.
Whoa.
I know, right?
All right.
We're packing the same fundamental abilities, including the power to create our own reality.
So we're like mini creators.
We're like little chips off the old cosmic block.
That's a powerful concept.
It is. And the purpose of being human, then, isn't just to exist. It's for God to experience itself through us and for us to realize we are actually God-like.
But there's a catch, right?
There's always a catch.
Uh-huh.
We need to experience what's not us to truly understand what is us.
Okay, so it's like that saying, you can't know light without knowing darkness.
Exactly. It's a cosmic game of hide and seek.
I love that analogy.
And for our listener, this might mean that their challenges, those things they struggle with, aren't just random events.
Right.
They're actually opportunities to define and refine who they truly are.
It's like those challenges are the crucible in which our true selves are forged.
Beautifully said. And get this, Walsh suggests that life isn't actually about learning new stuff.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's about experiencing and embodying what we already know deep down.
So we already have the knowledge. It's about putting it in practice.
Exactly. It's like we have the instruction manual for life inside us, but we have to actually go out there and build the thing.
I like that analogy.
And for our listener, this might mean shifting the focus from constantly seeking new information to actually applying and living the wisdom they already possess.
It's about moving from knowledge to embodiment.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So if we have this power to create, how does it actually work?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question.
Right. Well, Worley's One Truth, One Law really dives into this.
Okay.
And she presents this idea of I am and I create as like the fundamental law of the universe.
So our thoughts are creative forces.
Exactly. And she specifically talks about those I am statements we throw around all the time, you know?
Yeah, I'm so tired or I am so stressed.
Exactly. Those are powerful declarations.
Makes you think twice about what you're saying to yourself.
It really does. It's like we're constantly casting spells with our words.
Wow, that's a powerful image.
And Walsh adds to this by saying that prayer isn't about begging or pleading, you know?
So it's not a cosmic wish list.
Not exactly. It's more about gratitude.
Okay, so being thankful for what we have and what we desire.
Yeah. And he even suggests thanking the universe in advance for what you want to experience.
So like pre-ordering your happiness.
Yes, exactly. It's like putting in a cosmic order.
But what if you feel all the gratitude and nothing seems to change?
That's a great question. And Walsh addresses that too.
Okay.
He says the gratitude has to be genuine. You know,
Authentic.
not just a tactic to manipulate the universe.
Right, because you can't trick the cosmos.
You can't game the system. It's about real heartfelt appreciation, not trying to work some cosmic vending machine.
It's about aligning our energy with what we desire.
Exactly. And for our listener, this might mean checking in with those true feelings behind their desires.
Yeah.
You know,
Making sure it's coming from a place of alignment.
exactly. So let's shift gears a bit and talk about why we do what we do.
Okay.
Walsh suggests that all of our actions ultimately boil down to just two core motivations.
That's interesting.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It seems too simple almost. But he says it's either fear or love.
Everything else stems from those two.
Yes, everything else, anger, sadness, joy, those are all just different shades of those two primary colors.
Wow, that's a really powerful framework.
It is. It's like our emotional control panel only has two main settings.
So figuring out whether you're operating from fear or love can be a game changer.
It really can, it helps you understand your behavior, your choices, your reactions.
It's like understanding the root cause of your actions.
Exactly. And for our listener, this could be a really valuable tool for self-awareness.
If you're making more conscious choices.
Absolutely. And this leads us to the concept of collective consciousness.
Okay, the idea that we're all connected.
Yes, Walsh suggests that all the thoughts and feelings we're all generating are constantly swirling around the planet and can actually influence major events.
So our individual thoughts contribute to a larger field of consciousness.
Yes, it's like we're all adding our own little drop to this massive ocean of energy and information.
That's a mind-blowing concept.
It is, right? It's like realizing that your everyday anxieties and hopes and dreams could be tiny threads in the fabric of global events.
Wow. So we're not just passive observers.
Not exactly. Walsh is careful to say that we're not necessarily choosing these events directly,
Okay.
but we are observing them and deciding who we want to be in response to them.
So it's about choosing our response to what's happening around us.
Yes, and for our listener, this might offer a different way of looking at world events.
Not as something separate from us.
Exactly, seeing them as interconnected with our own inner world and our own choices.
That's a powerful shift in perspective.
It is, and it brings us to this maybe somewhat uncomfortable idea of no victims and no villains.
Okay, that's an interesting concept.
It is. Walsh suggests that on some level we've all played a part in creating the realities we don't like.
So we're all co-creators, even of the things we don't want.
Yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow sometimes, especially when you feel like life is being unfair or you're getting a raw deal.
I can see how that would be challenging.
It is, but the flip side is that it's actually empowering.
How so?
Because if we helped create it even unintentionally, then we also have the power to change it.
It's like realizing you're not just a character in the story, but also a co-writer.
Exactly. And for our listener, this might be an invitation to take more ownership of their experiences, even the difficult ones.
Yeah, to step into that co-creator role.
And here's another one that might challenge some conventional thinking.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Walsh suggests that nothing is inherently painful.
So pain is a perception.
Yeah, he says pain comes from what he calls wrong thought.
Oh.
You know?
So it's our interpretation of events that creates suffering.
Exactly. And the key to navigating life then isn't about trying to control the external world, which, let's face it, is pretty chaotic.
Right.
It's about adjusting our inner experience.
So it's about mastering our minds rather than trying to control our circumstances.
Exactly. It's like realizing we have the volume knob for our own discomfort.
That's a great analogy.
Right. And for our listener, this might mean exploring their thought patterns, especially when they're experiencing pain, whether it's physical or emotional.
Becoming aware of those thoughts that are creating suffering.
Yes, and Walsh goes on to say that the concept of wrong, as in like morally wrong, isn't really a thing.
Whoa, okay, that's a bold statement.
It is, right? But he's not saying it's okay to just go around breaking the law.
Right, there are still consequences for our actions.
Of course, but he's suggesting that we step outside of those self-imposed limitations of what we think is right and wrong.
So it's about challenging those rigid beliefs that might be holding us back.
Exactly. It's like the difference between having a philosophical debate about morality and like the practical need for traffic laws.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right, we need both.
Yeah.
And now, switching gears a bit wearily, in her book, One Truth, One Law, she connects several key concepts.
Okay, what are they?
She says believing in yourself, loving unconditionally, recognizing your unlimited potential, and believing in God are all interconnected.
So they all support and reinforce each other.
Exactly. If one of those wobbles, they all kind of wobble.
It's like they're all part of the same foundation.
Exactly. And for our listener, this might mean that strengthening one of those areas could have a ripple effect on all the others.
Interesting. So it's a holistic approach to personal growth.
Absolutely. And what about those limitations we all experience?
Yeah, those things that make us feel stuck or inadequate.
Well, Wearily touches on this, and Walsh also talks about people who are born with challenges, physical or mental.
Right.
And he actually suggests that those challenges might be part of the soul's intended journey.
Okay, so it's like the soul chose those experiences for a specific reason.
Yeah, it's a radical idea, but it's like saying the soul had a specific curriculum in mind.
That's a powerful way to look at it.
It is, and for our listener, this might offer a completely different perspective on their own challenges,
Seeing them as opportunities for growth rather than obstacles.
Exactly. And Walsh even talks about the false promise of the devil being the promise of God's power and love.
Wait, so the devil is promising God's power and love?
Yeah, it sounds counterintuitive, right?
It definitely does.
But the twist is that he says we've been conditioned to fear and judge a loving and powerful God.
So it's like we've been given a distorted view of the divine.
Exactly. And for our listener, this might be an invitation to examine any fear-based beliefs they have about a higher power or even their own potential.
To question those limiting beliefs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he also cautions us against boxing in how God might show up in our lives.
So it's not always going to be a burning bush or a booming voice from the heavens.
Not necessarily. It could be a random act of kindness, a gut feeling, a chance encounter, yet those synchronicities that make you go,
So it's about being open to the unexpected.
Exactly. Keeping your radar on for those subtle nudges from the universe.
I like that.
And Walsh encourages us to look at our beliefs and values piece by piece.
Okay.
Kind of like carefully inspecting the engine of a car rather than trying to overhaul the whole thing at once.
So it's a more gradual approach to self-transformation.
Exactly. Taking it step by step so you don't overwhelm yourself. Right. So let's talk about time, space, and feelings for a bit.
Okay, those are big ones?
They are. Walsh brings up this idea of the space between a thought, a word, and an action as being super important.
So that gap between thinking, speaking, and doing.
Yes. And he says it's in that pause, that moment of awareness, that a feeling or an experience is actually created.
Interesting. So it's like the birthplace of our reality.
Exactly. And get this, he says our soul is basically the sum total of every feeling we've ever had.
Wow, so we're carrying all that emotional baggage with us.
We are. It's like our soul is this massive hard drive storing all of our emotional experiences.
That's a powerful image.
And for our listener, this might highlight the importance of paying attention to their feelings.
Yeah.
You know?
Recognizing the power they have in shaping our reality.
Exactly. And he also says that it can be tough to actually hear our own soul sometimes.
Because our minds are so busy.
Yes, our minds are constantly chattering, and our bodies are often on autopilot.
So it's about finding that stillness.
Yes, carving out those quiet moments to really tune into those inner whispers.
And Wearily builds on this by saying that our emotions are like a gauge. You know,
Okay, gauge for what?
for how much we're aligned with our true selves.
Okay, I like that.
So if you're feeling joyful and expansive,
You're on the right track?
exactly, you're in alignment. But if you're feeling contracted and miserable, detour, big time. And the cool thing is, she says, we can actually shift our emotional state by choosing different thoughts.
So we're not at the mercy of our emotions.
Not necessarily we have the power to choose a different perspective.
It's like hitting the reset button on your mood.
And she talks about creating with knowing versus creating with doubt.
Okay, how's that work?
Well, she says, when we create with certainty, when we know what we want and we believe in our ability to create it, it happens more effortlessly in the physical world.
So it's about aligning our thoughts and beliefs with our desires.
Exactly. But when we create with doubt, when we're second guessing ourselves and questioning our abilities,
It creates resistance.
yes, it makes the manifestation process much more difficult.
So it's like we're putting up roadblocks in our own path.
Exactly. And she also emphasizes the power of taking action.
Right. Action dispels doubt.
Yes. It's like the saying, faith without works is dead.
You gotta put those good vibes into motion.
Exactly. Taking those inspired steps towards what you want.
Now, Walsh brings up this idea that all the great spiritual masters have basically been saying the same thing.
Which is,
What I am, you are. What I can do, you can do.
wow. So we all have that same potential.
We do. It's like we're all running on the same basic spiritual software.
But we often forget that.
We do. We get caught up in our limitations and our doubts.
And Walsh also distinguishes between what he calls fake feelings and real feelings.
Okay, what's the difference?
Well, he says fake feelings are those knee-jerk reactions we have that are based on past experiences or conditioning.
So like those automatic responses.
Exactly. And real feelings are those that bubble up from the soul in the present moment.
So they're more authentic, more in alignment with who we truly are.
Yes, and the key is to be present, to not immediately judge or label our feelings, and to respond consciously rather than just react.
So it's about creating a space between stimulus and response.
Exactly. And then Walsh drops this bombshell about time. Okay, I'm ready for it.
He suggests that time isn't actually linear.
What? So it's not a straight line from past to present to future?
Not exactly. He says it's more like a big vertical now.
Okay, so everything is happening simultaneously.
Yeah, it's a mind-bending concept, but he says yesterday and tomorrow are just stories we tell ourselves to make sense of things.
So the past and future are illusions.
In a way, yeah, he's saying that everything that ever happened and will happen is actually happening right now.
Whoa, it's like all of history is playing out on some cosmic DVR.
Exactly. And he goes on to say that space is just time made visible.
Okay, so time and space are interconnected.
Yes, and the universe, he says, started as this tiny super dense speck.
Talk about a big bang.
Right, and for our listener, these ideas might offer a totally new way to think about the present moment and their connection to the past and future.
It's about expanding our perception of reality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So moving on to choices and desires.
Okay.
Walsh suggests that the universe respects our free will.
So we have the power to choose.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But he also says that some things we actively create with our conscious intentions, and other things we kind of attract subconsciously based on our beliefs and our energetic vibration.
So there's a balance between conscious creation and subconscious manifestation.
Yes, and he even suggests that what we call fate might actually be the result of collective consciousness.
So it's like we're all co-creating our reality together.
Exactly, and he also points out that our judgments and expectations can really steal our joy.
Because we're setting ourselves up for disappointment.
Exactly, it's like we're constantly measuring our reality against some idealized version in our minds.
Right, in coming up short.
And Walsh says that once you reach a certain level of God consciousness, your priorities kind of shift.
How so?
Well, chasing external comforts and achievements becomes less important. And finding inner peace and spiritual fulfillment becomes the priority.
So it's about aligning with our true nature.
Exactly.
Okay.
And he also brings up this challenging idea that we're not ultimately responsible for anyone else's soul journey.
So we can't save or fix anyone.
Not really. We can offer support and guidance, but ultimately their path is their own.
It's about respecting their free will.
Exactly. And Worley echoes this. She says, we're each responsible for what we create, even the stuff we don't like.
Yeah, taking ownership of our creations.
And she says the key to changing things is acknowledging your part in creating them.
So recognizing our own power.
Exactly. It's like owning up to a mistake, so you can actually learn from it and do things differently next time.
Makes sense.
Right. And Walsh says that our life is often a reflection of our thoughts about it.
Okay.
So if you see yourself as a victim...
You're likely to attract experiences that reinforce that belief.
Exactly. And he suggests shifting from blaming external circumstances to recognizing your own power to choose.
Even in difficult situations.
Yes, it's about taking back your power.
And how about relationships?
Well, Walsh says that relationships aren't about trying to possess or change the other person.
So it's not about trying to fit them into a mold.
Not at all. He says it's about recognizing and accepting them for who they are.
Unconditionally.
Exactly, and focusing on your own growth within the connection.
So it's a two-way street of personal development.
Yes, and when things get tough.
Yeah, because relationships can be challenging.
Absolutely. Walsh suggests this interesting technique.
Okay, I'm all ears.
He calls it causing it to mean nothing.
So like detaching from the emotional charge.
Yeah, and then consciously deciding what you want it to mean so you can choose how you want to respond.
It's like hitting the pause button on your emotional reaction.
Exactly, creating that space to choose a more empowering response.
And Walsh talks about entering relationships for the right reasons.
Yes, meaning being aligned with your bigger life goals and values.
Not out of neediness or expecting something in return.
Exactly. He says disappointment often arises when those unspoken expectations get disguised as love.
So it's about being clear about our intentions.
Yes, being authentic with ourselves and with the other person.
And Walsh makes this bold statement that life is a game you can't lose.
I love that.
Me too, even if you don't achieve all those external markers of success.
Right, the real prize is simply being who you really are.
It's about embracing our authentic selves.
Exactly, and the Tao Te Ching offers a slightly different flavor.
Okay, tell me more.
It says that the Tao gives birth to both good and bad, and the wise person welcomes both.
So it's about accepting the duality of life.
Yes, and finding your way back to the source, to that state of inner peace and harmony.
It's about aligning with the natural flow of the universe.
Exactly, and it says the Tao doesn't force anything, yet everything gets done through it.
It's like the effortless power of nature.
Yes, it's a beautiful concept. And shifting gears again to the mind, body, and will.
Okay.
Walsh says our bodies are these amazing machines that we often mistreat.
Yeah, we don't always treat ourselves with kindness.
Not always. And he says it's because we lack the will to truly live fully.
So it's not about judgment, it's about recognizing our potential.
Exactly. And he also points out that our minds are easily influenced by the external world,
Right, we're bombarded with information and opinions.
constantly. And he suggests that sometimes the best way to break free from those limiting thoughts is to just act.
Before you overthink it.
Exactly. Just take that leap of faith.
And he talks about the power of repeated thoughts and words.
Yes, they're like seeds that grow into our reality.
So we need to be mindful of what we're planting in our minds.
Absolutely. And he cautions us against getting addicted to drama.
Yeah, those negative thought patterns that keep us stuck.
Exactly. And he even suggests that sometimes we hold on to health issues subconsciously.
Because we're getting some kind of secondary gain from them.
Yeah, like attention or sympathy.
So it's about becoming aware of those unconscious motivations.
Absolutely. And he challenges the whole concept of sin, particularly original sin.
Interesting.
He calls it a misunderstanding of creation.
So we're not inherently flawed or broken.
Not according to Walsh. He says creation is inherently perfect.
That's a liberating perspective.
It is, and he says the journey of enlightenment isn't about getting somewhere else.
It's about realizing you're already there.
Exactly. You already have everything you need. You're already who you're meant to be.
It's about remembering our true nature.
Exactly. And he says true mastery isn't about fighting our desires.
It's about letting go of attachment to them.
Yes. And he says changing our desires can actually be a joyful process.
It's about aligning our wants with our highest good.
And he emphasizes the importance of stillness,
Yes, finding those moments of quiet reflection.
to connect with our inner wisdom, to hear those whispers of truth.
And really circles back to this idea of I am and I create as the fundamental truth.
Right, it's like the core operating system of reality.
And she talks about the persona, the identity we construct as a way to experience individuality. But she says it can also block our connection to our true selves.
So it's like we're wearing a mask that makes it hard to hear our own inner voice.
And she says our emotions are feedback on how aligned we are with our true selves.
Okay, so they're like our internal guidance system.
Exactly. Good feelings mean you're on track. Bad feelings mean you need to course correct.
And she says the cool thing is we can actually choose different thoughts to shift our emotional state. So we're not powerless.
Not at all. We have the power to choose a different perspective.
And she emphasizes the power of action.
Right. Action obliterates doubt.
When you take that step, you're putting your energy into motion.
And she also talks about our individual blueprints or destiny.
Okay.
She says they're unique because of our creative thoughts, unlike animals that have more fixed instincts.
So we have more freedom to choose our path.
Exactly. And she has this interesting saying, you are often me, but you don't know it.
Deep.
Right? It's like pointing to that shared essence we all have.
And she says those coincidences we experience are actually evidence of our creative power at work.
So those synchronicities are meaningful.
Yes, they're like little winks from the universe.
And she says even when things don't go our way, it's important to own our part in creating those experiences.
Yeah, it's about taking responsibility.
So we can reclaim our power.
Exactly. And she challenges the idea that limitations are real.
Okay, so limitations are self-imposed.
Yes, she says they're just beliefs we've bought into.
Wow, so we're more powerful than we realize.
Exactly. And she says suffering comes from blocking those creative thoughts and believing that the physical world is the only reality.
So it's about expanding our awareness beyond the material realm.
Yes, and she has this powerful